Hey, I'm Josh with Social Impact Society.
I am Texas with Social Impact Society.
I'm Ashton with Rain Humanitarian.
And we hope you enjoy this interview with Darren from Beast Philanthropy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us. We just have a few questions for you. For those that may not be familiar with Beast Philanthropy, how would you describe yourselves to our listeners?
Do you want the short answer or the long answer?
Both.
The short answer is anybody who knows Jimmy knows how kind and generous he is. And Jimmy wanted to build an organization that could take his generosity to the industrial level instead of helping hundreds of people or thousands of people that get to interact with his channel every year. We could help hundreds of thousands of people. And hopefully in the future, even more than that. The long answer is that the whole idea behind this was originally supposed to be a food bank that we generated the revenue to buy the food from the channel revenue, and that was how we began. But we soon realized it's going to be extremely boring if every single video that we ever put out is, us giving food away and putting food in the back of people's trucks and cars and everything like that. So, if we wanted to engage with our audience, which I'll explain to you why it's so important that we have the channel, we needed to be able to have content that we had a little bit more diversity and, it was more interesting. So we couldn't focus on one single thing. But the thing that we knew going into it, but we never really contemplated how successful we'd be with it, was that beyond being a revenue engine for the channel, beyond the channel being a revenue engine for the charity, it was really we started getting a lot of emails and phone calls and contacts from parents telling us the effect that, it was having when their kids were watching the videos. And we realized that Beast Philanthropy is much, much more powerful. Beast Philanthropy is an inspiration. It's an example that we are setting to a generation. Jimmy has, across all of his platforms globally, over 400 million subscribers now. Most of them are between 13 and 23 years old. So when you're talking about 400 million people in that age group, you're starting to talk about a significant percentage of all of the young people in the world. And, when they see somebody that everybody likes as much as they do, Jimmy, and everybody, aspires to be as successful as they are, and they see that Jimmy has got there being as kind and generous as he is, and they see that it's enjoyable to help other people, then they start getting interested in what role they can play. And at the end of the day, I don't believe that any organization or any person is powerful enough to change the world, but Jimmy is powerful enough to change the way that an entire generation of people think. And by doing so, the acts of kindness and just generosity and empathy towards other people, if we can teach an entire generation those lessons, and everybody starts standing up for everybody else on the planet and starts caring about everybody else a little bit more, then that will definitely change the world. And so what I see our role is simply as an example, and to inspire other people, to inspire our audience, to inspire other creators, so that, globally, if we have tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people that are thinking just a little bit differently to the way that they're used to today. Just, giving 1 hour a month to a volunteer organization, or giving, foregoing one meal that you'd be eating at a restaurant and donating it to charity or something along those lines. Nobody has to give up everything. But if everybody gives up a little bit, then we start actually making a difference on a global scale. And, it's time for us to stop saying this is somebody else's responsibility. The government should be doing this. Every single one of us has an obligation to stand up for every other human being on this planet and do something about it. And if all of us are doing that, then we're actually making a difference.
Brilliant response. Thank you. We have a few questions along the lines of your strategy there. We recently made a video about how your organization is changing the way that charity work should be done. You've created a new stream of revenue through those videos. So along those lines, how do you decide which projects to pursue?
I mean, it's difficult. There's so much need in the world, and so we look at the projects through a number of lenses. The first thing is we absolutely have to do things that are going to have a meaningful impact on a community that is marginalized and vulnerable. I've been offered like really interesting things where organizations have approached us and said, let's do the biggest food distribution ever in history. And I look at it and I'm like, well, if that's a one-time thing, what good have we done? So we go and we give people, a week's worth of food or 2 weeks worth of food, and then for the rest of their lives, we leave them alone. That's not a solution. That's a stunt. So what we look at is a way that we can go in and make a meaningful difference to a community or to some people, is something that will last a lifetime or generations. And it's much more important for me to build a school than it is to go and spend the money on a temporary program that goes away, because the school will last. Every student that passes through there, it will last their lifetime. So, that's the first criteria is there a way that we can make a difference, that will last for many years and benefit many people? The second thing is, are we going to be able to tell a story that engages our audience in an interesting way, that they will be able to relate to it and the people in the story? And it's important. There's a little bit of criticism online where people say, "Oh, you just do this for the views, or you just do this for the clicks." It's a bunch of nonsense. I'll tell you something. Jimmy gets over 1 billion views a month in the main channel, and I get, if I've had an amazing month, 50 million views. That's a 0.5%. Is that a 0.5%? No, that's 5%. But whatever it is. The views that we generate are meaningless to Jimmy. He's not doing it for views. If Jimmy wants to get a lot of views, he goes and blows up a Lamborghini or crashes a train into the wall, and that gets a whole lot more views. Unfortunately, but that's the reality of it. So it's not doing it. That's not why he's doing it. Like I said, it started out as a revenue engine for the food bank, and now it's a revenue engine for the entire charity. All of the work that we are doing, the huge majority of it is supported by the channel. Our donations are, relative to what we are doing, very, very small. We've only just started getting participation by other foundations where they're coming in and helping us. So the revenue model that we have is working. For the meantime, we're growing so fast that I'm going to start looking for outside support as well, so that we can keep up with the momentum that we have. But 100% of the revenue is, put back into the charity from the channel. And when I say 100%, I mean 100%. Jimmy doesn't deduct the production costs of the videos or any of the production expenses. He pays all of that himself out of his pocket, and we just get to keep all of the revenue that we generate. So that's the first priority of the channel. The second priority is something that I see quite a lot, where people email me and they tell me, hey, I'm really poor. I'm not in a part of the world where I have access to any of the services you provide yet. But just watching and knowing that there are people that care about us, makes me feel really a whole lot better. So I get a lot of that, and that's it. That I like is called hope. It builds faith and makes people feel a little bit better that there are people that care, and there are people that are fighting for solutions and standing up for them. The third thing is that we get to educate people. We get to educate them about what the issues are that humanity faces around the world. Like, it's one thing, everybody knows that children in Africa don't have water, but it's really hard to understand what that means if you've never seen it, and if you've never been there, and if you've never stood in the blazing sun with those kids. But we can show them on the channel, and we can also show them that these kids are sweet and happy and loving. They're no different to the kids that we all grow up with. They're human beings, they're children, and they deserve better than what life has allotted them. And, you know, it can give our audience a tangible experience about what it actually means for these people that are suffering. And the fourth thing, and what I consider the most important thing that we are doing with the channel, is inspiring people to say, hey, you know, I can get involved. I can do something about this. I don't have to go do a whole lot. We don't need everybody in the world to become a philanthropist and dedicate their life to helping other people. All we need is for people to make a 3 or 4 or 5% difference in their life. Like I said, forego 1 meal out a month and give it to charity, or, you know, buy a $150 pair of shoes instead of a $200 pair of shoes and buy somebody else a pair of shoes. There are so many ways. Even if you can't afford it, go volunteer an hour, go help a neighbor, go pay somebody a compliment if you see that they're having a bad day. And I want to tell you the secret behind this is that people think about charity as being a sacrifice. They think about volunteering as being a burden. But when you go help somebody, you will very quickly realize that you walk away from the experience feeling really good about yourself. And I keep on saying this to people because people always come to me and they say, damn, you're such a good guy. And I'm like, no, I'm not a good guy. If I hated what I was doing and I still did it, then you could call me a good guy. But I love what I'm doing. I feel amazing every time I go and I help people. And that is really rewarding to me. And I say, selfish, you know, helping other people is a selfish act because it makes you feel good, but it's the most noble form of selfishness out there. And it's the form of selfishness that I want to encourage. Like, go discover for yourself how good it feels to help somebody genuinely in need. And one thing I don't like about charity is, you know, charity is not going on Facebook and clicking a button and donating $5 to something because one of your friends pressured you into doing it or something like that. Go have a tangible experience. Go to a food distribution, go to an animal shelter, go to a soup kitchen and help a person yourself. And you can see the gratitude in their eyes. You can see how happy they are, and you'll feel a connection to that person, and you'll want to go back and do it, not just for them, but for yourself as well.
Thank you. That kind of that directs us into our next questions. Essentially, you talk about how your content creation strategy is such an important source of revenue. Do you think that's a strategy that other charities can adopt? And if so, how would you recommend they start if they haven't?
Well, I don't know that, you know, any charity can just, you know, start and be as successful as we've been. I hope so. There are other creators that have started doing positive content. And I know because they reached out to us beforehand and asked for advice, which I gave them. And they've learned that positive content can actually be engaging and go viral, which was something that we were told would absolutely not happen before we started this. But I have gone and given speeches to presentations to other charities about how they can make their videos more engaging. Now, I don't know that, and I wish them the best of luck, and I'll help them any way that I can to get to a point where maybe they could use their content to generate enough revenue to, you know, to be a significant source for their charity. But it's more along the lines, the talks that I've given to major charities have been about how they can make their content more engaging, not for the sake of earning revenue off it, but just so that they can get their message out there and spread their message. Because your traditional, typical charities have no idea how to use social media. When we first contemplated this project, we went to some of the best analysts in the world that, you know, very familiar with social media and YouTube and what content works and what keywords work and everything. And they said, without a doubt, this project would fail because nobody cares about going to YouTube to watch charity videos. And what they got wrong about that is it's the old type of charity video. If I sit there and I'm like, have a PowerPoint presentation in the video and this many people, everybody's going to get bored in 30 seconds and they're going to click off to another video. But what I tell all the charities to do is you've got to find an entertaining way to engage people. People are coming to YouTube because they want to be entertained. And if you can find an entertaining way to tell a story about a charitable concept, you don't make the video about the charitable concept itself. That's a message that you're carrying through the video, but you give them an entertaining story that they want to watch. And you want to give them an uplifting story at the end. You don't want to just go and talk about how many, animals are dying or how many children are starving without having resolution and offering a solution and showing that you've done something to help. And we haven't got it perfect yet. We're still trying to refine it. There's not anybody who's really done this at the scale that we've done it before. So there was no roadmap to look at. There's no, hey, this is what worked really well. And this is, what other people tried and it failed. So we've got to sort of discover this as we go along. And I'm damn proud of what we've done to date and where we've been able to take the channel to. I mean, we're 17.5 million subs. We're growing at about 1 million subs a month. And, our videos are getting, engagement of about 20 million views in the first 2 months. We're killing it in terms of YouTube performance, but we still know that we have a long way to go. There's a lot that we have to uncover about how to do this the right way, with an authentic voice, with a, respect to the people that we are trying to help, to not be exploitive, to not demean their personal integrity in any way in being in the videos, and to do it in a way that an audience is going to want to watch for, and watch all the way through the video so that the video goes viral.
That's awesome. Super cool, Darren. I love hearing this. You talked about doing an entertaining story. So I have 2 questions. One, what is your story? How did you find, this awesome niche yourself? And then number 2, how do you tell an entertaining story? You kind of said, hey, don't tell about this number of people dying or whatever, but you want to focus on the story. Can you go into depth on those 2 questions?
Sure. The first question, how did I get into this? I was lucky. I always have loved dogs and cats. Well, I didn't always love cats. I hated cats until I was 31 years old, and then somebody gave me one, and now I'm obsessed with them. But I had a dog from the day that I was born, and I've always loved animals. So, in 2002, a person that I knew found some kittens under her deck, and she was trying to find a shelter that would take them, and there's no shelter that would take them that wasn't going to euthanize them. So she went and she found a home for them, but I helped her pay for some of the vetting services for them. I was a real estate developer, and as a successful real estate developer, and so I paid for the vetting for those animals and other animals, and that grew into an organization where we started a 501c3, and I was on the executive board of that 501c3, pretty much from the beginning. And we grew it into a really large animal shelter that has over 20 years saved over 60,000 animals. And along the way, I started realizing that the work that I was doing for the animal shelter was bringing me a huge amount of joy. And the work that I was doing that was making me rich, my career, was making me really miserable. And, you get to a point and you realize that there's no linear path. You've got to have enough money to be able to afford food and housing and everything that you need. But after that, you can buy a nice car. But then if you buy another nice car, it's diminishing returns as you go up. And so the more money that you make is absolutely not going to make you happier. And I know that because that's the position that I was in. And somewhere along the line, through a couple of experiences that I went through, I realized that this was not how I was going to spend my entire life. And I made the decision to sell the portfolio when I was quite young. I sold my real estate portfolio when I was 43 years old. I had enough money that I didn't need to work again. And, but I wanted to pursue the thing that I found that was actually giving me fulfillment and enrichment. And I continued working with the animal charity and continuing to develop that. I got involved in another charity for special needs kids. And it was just something that I was doing, because it made me feel great. I was never looking for fame. I was never looking, for anything out of it other than the personal self-fulfillment that I got out of it, And I had a really easy life, man. As a skydiver, I didn't have to worry about work. I'd go skydiving every weekend and traveling all the time and going out partying with my friends at night. And on a skydiving trip in like 2016 or 2017, I'm a terrible skydiver, by the way. I don't know how to land a parachute. I always come crashing really hard into the ground, but I know how to do it. And everybody at my drop zone expects that. Like if I land on my feet, there's a celebration. But I was at a different drop zone and I came crashing into the ground like I always do. And some young kid comes running up to me and he's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, that's how I roll," And he was in real estate and we started talking about it. And I had sold my portfolio, didn't want to ever think about real estate again. It turns out that guy was hired as the CEO for Jimmy. And he remembered that I was running a dog shelter in 2020. He called me up one day and he was like, "Hey, do you still run that dog shelter?" And I said, "Yeah, I do." And he was like, "We want to do a video where we get every dog in the dog shelter adopted." And I was like, "How do you think you're going to do that?" And he said, we'll spend whatever it takes. I'll buy every billboard in Atlanta if we have to do that." And I was like, "Who did you say you work again?" And he said, "Mr. Beast." And we're a big YouTube channel and we spend a lot of money and we like doing philanthropically based things. And I was like, okay. I mean, so I drove up to North Carolina to come and meet Jimmy. And I was there for 10 minutes and Jimmy, I'm trying to convince Jimmy to pick our shelter. And he said, "I've already picked your shelter. That's not why you're here." And I said, "Why am I here?" And he said, "Because I've been wanting to start a charity and I've been looking for the right person for 2 years. And you're the one that's going to do it for me." And I said, "What charity is it?" And he said, "I want to start a food bank." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't know the first thing about food banks. I don't know anything about logistics. I don't know anything about food safety. I don't know how to get food. I don't find somebody with experience that knows what they're doing." And Jimmy said, "No, I don't want somebody with experience because I don't want them to recreate the systems that are not working." He said, "I know you're a smart guy. I know you're successful in business. I know you built a really big animal shelter. But most importantly, I know that you walked away from a lot of money so that you could do charity." And he was like, "That is the only reason that you're the only person that is going to run Beast Philanthropy." And we argued about it a little bit. I was very nervous. I was like, "I don't think I can do what you want me to do." And I went to bed that night. I stayed over at Jimmy's house. I went to bed that night and I thought about it. And I thought to myself, if Jimmy has been trying for 2 years to find a person, if his career keeps on developing the way that it is, and he never does find the right person to find it, I've seen it happen. I'm 55 years old. I've seen now what happens. People have these dreams, and if they never execute on them because they don't find the right person, everything doesn't align, then life goes on and you grow and you may never come back to the original idea. And when I went to bed that night and I was like, if I say no and Beast Philanthropy never gets started and the opportunity to utilize somebody who's got the reach that Jimmy does never manifests because I said no, then it doesn't matter. Anything else that I've done in my life becomes irrelevant because that became the most selfish decision I made. And so I told Jimmy the next morning that I'd research it and everything. And, he said, "Look, I'll pay you any amount of money, just name the price." And I said, "Look, if I do it, I'm not going to take a salary." And, I went back to Atlanta and I started volunteering at food pantries and going and interviewing people that were running food banks and learning about how you procure food at that scale and everything that I needed to know. And I met up with, after 3 months of like every day deep in it, researching it and everything, I went to Jimmy and I said, "Okay, I'm ready to give it a shot." And he's like, "Great. You're moving in." He turned to somebody there, it's like, "Get him an apartment." And that was it, man. And with that, I've given up everything that mattered to me in my former life. Like I used to, have a ton of friends and go out all the time and have a lot of fun. And now, I work. A short day for me is 14 hours. A long day, I'll work some days 24 hours. But if I'm traveling, I work 20-hour days because we shoot during the morning and then I work at night to try and keep up. I work extremely hard. I don't take any days off, even weekends. I've taken 12 days. I don't have many friendships because I'm always on the road. I don't have a relationship because I don't have time to take care of myself. This has been all consuming, but I've never been more grateful. And I gave up working because I couldn't deal with the stress and the long hours and everything. And this is 3 times more stressful and much longer hours and never get a break. And I don't make any money. But I wake up every morning and instead of saying, damn it, I hate my life because I've got to deal with all of this, I wake up in the morning and I say, oh, I've got all of this stress and all of these problems to get through today, but I've never been more grateful, and I've never felt more fulfilled. And, I just want to be clear, Jimmy's an incredibly nice guy. And Jimmy, if he knew how hard I actually work, would probably come and punch me. But, he's not the one that drives me. He's not the one that drives me. But I truly believe that we sit in a unique position in history when you have somebody with the reach and influence that Jimmy does and is prepared to use that and the wealth that he has as an example to an entire generation of people. This is the most meaningful, effective thing that I have ever come across in my life for maybe changing the direction of the world. And that's why I am 100% dedicated to it. And, I won't give up on it no matter how hard it gets. I just won't give up on it because I truly believe if there is a more positive future than the one that seems to be ahead of us right now, it has to start with teaching people to think a little bit differently to the way that they do now, to start thinking about us as human beings and not black or white or Indian or American or Chinese or fat or thin or tall or short. We are all human beings. We all feel the same pain. We all need to start considering other people a little bit more than we do. And if we can teach people those lessons at the scale that we can because of the Beast brand, then I actually think that we can make a difference.
That's beautiful. I was just gonna say
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I am actually paid a salary, but I donate it back every year. It was done for legal reasons. So if anybody ever wants to call me out on the 990, you can see what my salary is. And I'm happy to post the bank transfers that show that I put it all back in.
That's awesome. That was a really entertaining story. Thanks for sharing your story. Just thinking about that, there's 4 levels of purpose, if you will. 1, people do it to pay the bills. 2, they do it because of they want to become financially free. And 3, the where you're at is making impact, making the history books. So we appreciate you living at that highest purpose. That's really cool.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just saying, we have one more question for you, if that's all right. We once again appreciate all your time today. You mentioned earlier on that you recommend people just getting started with charities around their organization or around their community rather than necessarily becoming a philanthropist. For people that may feel like charities are slower to adopt some of the new innovative ideas they have, how do you suggest they find that balance between working with existing charities, but at the same time encouraging innovation like you guys have done?
I have been giving a lot of speeches lately. I'm giving one this coming week. But I don't think that the old charity model works. I don't think that, saying this is somebody else's problem. Like, it's terrible what happens. These children in Africa should have water, or there shouldn't be starving people or homeless people in the United States. And the government should do something about that. Or, there's charities out there that exist to tackle these problems. But the problem is there's not a lot of a high level of trust with charities, because people see things in charities that make them, skeptical of the charity. If you see, executive directors making millions of dollars a year, or you see the waste, or you hear the stories about it, then people don't trust, the big charities, particularly your guys' generation. And your skepticism is valid. It's shared by me. I don't like the mega charities, but I always like, you'll see in the videos that we do, we always partner with smaller charities, because I want to know the people that are running it. I want to know their motivations for doing it. There are a lot of amazing charities in the world, run by incredible people who really care. And there are also a lot of, there's a charity industry where I believe that, a lot of these mega charities are there to support themselves. And the work that they do is sort of a byproduct that but their primary responsibility, the way that they see it, is to keep themselves working and spending ridiculous amounts of money on fundraising and things like that, and small amounts of money on grants. And I don't like that model. But I don't think that the whole, where everybody says, I'll let somebody else do it, or this is such a complicated problem that I don't know what to do or where to start. Dude, it's simple. If you see a hungry homeless man, go buy him a sandwich. If you see somebody in the cold, that's freezing on a winter night, walk into a store and throw down $20 and buy them a blanket and take it out there. Charity should come from, the 8 billion people that live on the planet. And it shouldn't be, a responsibility that's abdicated to, some other entity, whether it be a government, or whether it be a charity, or whether it be anybody else. Each one of us, don't just click like and share on Facebook and think that you've done your part. Don't go give $10 and think that you've done your part. Go do something directly for somebody. And it doesn't have to be anybody. Make this a part of your everyday. Try to do something amazing for something. If you're checking out a fast food restaurant and you can see that the person is stressed and has had a terrible day, pay them a compliment. Say, I love your nails, or I love your hair, or make them smile. And it will make you feel better. If you have an opportunity to help a mother who's struggling with her 2 toddlers to carry her groceries on, go help her. And you will quickly start realizing that, what I said earlier, you will feel much better about your day. You'll feel much better about yourself. And you guys are young. I'm not going to be around here to see the consequences of the world, the way that it's, the path that it's going now. But you guys need to step up and start making changes. The whole millennials, Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, everybody needs to start taking personal responsibility for everything that is wrong in the world, and saying, I'm going to do a little bit. If I'm going to interact with 30 people today, I'm going to try and make at least one of those people's days better. I'm going to, instead of, going and playing video games with my friends for this afternoon, going to ask my friends to meet me at an animal shelter or a soup kitchen, or do something like that. And do that once a month or once every other month. But if we start doing that at scale, where hundreds of millions of people are making those decisions, then all of a sudden, problems that are insurmountable right now, there is no solution to them, become easy to solve. There is more than enough in this planet to go around. There's more resources. Somebody asked me the other day what my ultimate life goal would be. And I said to them, truthfully, if I could make it where people were more embarrassed to flex their wealth than they are, to show it off. Right now, everybody, like if somebody drives up in a Lambo and gets out in a, $5,000 pair of sneakers, like everybody's like, oh my God, who is that person? I don't want your generation to grow up like admiring, people who accumulate wealth like that to the extent that they do. I want your generation to admire the people that are standing up for other people in their communities. That the guy who gets out of the car, $100,000, $500,000 car, gets out, but he's embarrassed to get out of that car because everybody looks down on him. They don't look up on him. He's taken much more than he needs. People say to me all the time, why don't you take more money from Jimmy? Why? He's wealthy and he'll give it to you. And I'm like, I don't need it. Why would I take it if I don't need it? What I have, and I live in a very modest lifestyle now. I live in a cheap apartment in Greenville. I could go spend the money that I got and buy a mansion anywhere that I wanted to. I am much happier giving my own money to other people. And I've got a roof over my head. I got electricity. I got running water. I got high-speed internet. I got air conditioning, and I go enough places around the world and I see just a clean glass of water a day is more than most of these people can hope for. And so I have enormous gratitude for the simplest things over here. And thinking that I need anything more than I got now is actually quite repulsive to me rather than appealing to me, And, if more people learn to say, I'm grateful for everything that I have. I don't need to worry about whether I'm going to have water to drink today or food on my table, or a roof over my head, and realize how lucky you are, how many people in the world can't make those statements. Then, if people would have gratitude for the simple things, then they will not need more than they have to have. One of my favorite quotes ever is from a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, and it says, "Is not the fear of thirst when your well is full, a thirst that is unquenchable?" And if you think about it, and I have the experience of having some very, very wealthy friends who are still obsessed with having more than they got. They've got mansions all over the world. They've got massive yachts that sell all over the place, and they're still obsessed with having more. And none of those people will ever have what they want because all they ever want is more than they've got. But if you learn to have gratitude for what you have, you will always have what you want. And when you take that mindset, it's much, much easier. And so these are. I think humanity is such an interesting thing. We have so much potential to be absolutely amazing. We've solved nuclear power, and now we're working in fusion, and we've got artificial intelligence and quantum computing and all of these amazing technologies and understanding about how to control the world. And yet we still fight about the most basic things, and it's all based around greed. And it's time for us to just twist the dial ever so slightly and make it a little bit more generous and a little less greedy. Make people admire people who help one another more than they admire somebody who drives a really expensive car and got there by exploiting other people, or took more than they ever needed and deprived other people of what they need, And this is what I believe. Jimmy, I don't want to speak for Jimmy, but Jimmy is a genuinely great guy. Like, I wouldn't work for him and do all of this and do it for nothing if I didn't believe in Jimmy himself. And Jimmy is the perfect example of somebody who's found stunning success and yet doesn't want to use it for his own benefit. He wants to use it for everybody else's. And if we can start teaching next generations that that's what the most important thing that we can do, then the rest is easy, man. The future is going to be amazing, or the future is going to be really dark. It's just what we choose as humanity, what issues are important to us. And I want to do whatever I can to guide those decisions for the next generation.
Well, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege to hear from you. Definitely going to go through and re-listen to those things that you've shared with us. We look forward to seeing the next Beast Philanthropy videos, and we wish you well on your upcoming travels.
I appreciate it. Will you guys let me know when you put this up live? My mom would love to see it, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I'll send you an email.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Darren,
thank you
so
for doing
much.
it this evening.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you for making it to the end of that episode. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.